in the right timing.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. All right, so welcome to today's practice. We have Shilpa, we have Ankita, we have Shriya, Gargi's here, Anu's here, Payal's here, Amaru's also here with a hoodie on. Nice, good to see you all. I'd like to just start with maybe give it another minute or so, then people are coming. Let's actually start with a minute of silence. That'll be nice. So the more present we are, I mean, in a way, we're always present, but the sun is always shining, but the clouds can cover it up. So we cannot not be present, but we can get lost in the local focus in various thoughts and concepts, which are like clouds. So the more present we are, we'll find that we can be in touch with life. We can be in touch with life in a more non-verbal way. So we can be in touch with just the experience of the experience, as opposed to the thoughts about the experience. This is an important thing to distinguish. It's like reading the menu versus eating the food. There is a slight difference between just experiencing life versus being in the thoughts about what is life. So the more we can be somewhat present, somewhat open, somewhat attentive, then we are more in touch with, you can call it energy, you can call it flow, you can call it guidance. And we just have a sense of what is needed in any moment. We can just sense what is aligning, what is not aligning, what is expanding, what is contracting. And it's not such a tedious process as thinking, constantly thinking and trying to make the right decision. So in a way, it's like you're feeling your way. And that's a wonderful experience. Some of you have had it, I'm sure. Probably you've all had it. But some of us are more in touch with that experience than others, although it's available to all of us. So a practice like today's is a reminder to slow down a little bit. Slowing down almost seems to have a negative connotation in today's world, where everything is fast, fast, fast. The faster, the better. I love this teaching of Ajahn Brahm, one of my teachers. His car broke down, and he was being driven to his monastery, and the car broke down. And he had been on that road hundreds of times. And when the car broke down, he realized, as he began walking on the road, he realized that, wow, he's never noticed the road this way before. The road is different when you're going in a car versus when you're walking. And then again, he stood still, and again, the road changed, everything changed. He could see everything in great clarity. So when our mind is racing, the same experiences, like for example, you may eat at a 5-star restaurant. A lot of attention has gone into every last detail of your meal, but you may not notice much of it if your mind is racing. So the purpose of calls like this is to, in the month, at least a couple of times a month, to slow down a little bit, and to move. I like this phrase, move at the speed of life instead of moving at the speed of thought. And when you're in touch with the speed of life, then life takes care of itself. And there are less rude shocks. There's more flexibility, there's more fluidity. And it's like water finds its way. You also find your way. No matter what happens, you don't get stuck. You're able to find your way. I'd like to start with a small announcement. So Patty, can you just share the slide that we've created for Sunday?
Yeah, just doing that. Can you see the slide?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, thanks. So this is something I'm offering on the coming Sunday, 9th of January, from 10:30 to 11:30. It might go a little beyond 11:30, let's see, but yeah, at least an hour. 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. And the link is actually the same as this link. So whether you do nithyashanti.me/Zoom or /moon, it gets you to the same place. So I want to share with you what I'm planning for the year ahead. And so we'll also do some practices, and I'll give you an introduction to what I'm planning for this coming year. In the past, I've run long-term courses. We've had a 3-year course, 3 month and 3 days. That's the traditional Tibetan retreat. Tibetan monks and advanced practitioners do a 3-year, 3-month, 3-day retreat. So we've had one of those courses. We've also had, last year we had a 9-month course. Before that, we had a 6-month meditation course. So we've had some long-term courses. So I felt drawn to have another long-term course. And I'll be telling you what I have in mind. So if you're interested, then join me on the 9th of Jan. And if you can't join, then I'm sure there'll be a recording which you can catch on YouTube or something. Yeah, that's all right, Patty. You can take it off.
I think I'll let it stay for a while.
Okay, fine. So one thing nice, I was with my friend Deepthi the other day in Hyderabad. And she said to me that the traditional way of looking at time is that, you have a beginning, you have an ending. And so, for example, if you're studying something, then if you have this concept of time, which is linear time, then the idea is you learn basic concepts, then you learn more advanced concepts, and more, like often our schooling is like this. You start with kindergarten, then you go to first grade, second grade. And like this, they get more and more and more complex concepts keep getting added on as you go along. So in a way, the deeper you are into the course, the more advanced the concepts are. And she said to me, that's actually not the same as in India, or at least in the East or in India. We have a different concept of time. The concept of time in India is more akin to a spider's web. I said, what do you mean? She said, a spider's web, the stickiest part of a spider's web is actually in the center, the spider's web. And then the spider weaves around it, round and round and round. So the concept of time in India is in the traditional way of looking at it, is more like it's cyclical. And it's not like you're adding more concepts. You're exploring the same central idea from different viewing points. So in a way, what you learned in the beginning was a core thing. It's not like it's that's a kindergarten level stuff. No, it's not like that. What you learned in the beginning, in fact, I don't know how many of you read some of our scriptures, they're very intelligently designed. The very first word and the very first letter of the word, the very first letter of the first word of any scripture is supposed to contain the entire essence of the scripture. And then the first word is supposed to contain the essence, and the first sentence is supposed to contain the essence. So it starts from something that's already complete. It's not incomplete that, oh, we'll build up to it. Oh, this is just the introduction. We'll build up to it in the later chapters. No. It's right there in the beginning. Arambha, right in the beginning. Right in the beginning is the whole thing. And then, of course, for the slow people, then they have to elaborate. You have to make a letter into a word, and a word into a sentence, and a sentence into a chapter. And then for some people, you have to keep on reading many chapters and many books, commentaries. So what a powerful way of looking at it. So we'll go with that idea that it's not necessarily about learning more and more things. It's about taking some central idea and exploring it again and again from many perspectives. And what's that central idea? It's exactly those two words, being and blossoming. So anyway, we'll discuss that more on Sunday. So for today, I invite you to be more present. The whole idea of new moon practice is you empty yourself. Empty yourself. How do you empty yourself? So first of all, you loosen it a bit. You loosen your strong fixation, whatever happened today, whatever's going on in your life, whatever crisis you're dealing with, whatever's coming up next. Just get a little loose. Get a little loose. So it's there, but you're not 100% preoccupied with it. And little by little, you start transferring that attention, that energy, to what is spontaneously arising in the moment. So anything you're hearing, anything you're feeling, anything you're sensing. One of the simplest teachings of the Buddha, which I find one of the most profound, is when he tells a man who's about to die. This man has walked from Maharashtra all the way to somewhere in Uttar Pradesh / Bihar, where the Buddha was. This man has walked all the way there to get the teachings. And he's in a rush because he knows he's going to die soon. He's an old man, and he's just recently found out, he had a dream in which he found out that there's the Buddha. And he rushes to go and meet the Buddha. And he goes to the Vihara, the monastery, and he asks for where is the Buddha. And they say the Buddha is on arms round. He'll be back soon. So which direction is he in? That direction. So he goes running. And the Buddha is quietly walking through the village receiving food. And the man interrupts the arms round and says, Lord, give me the teachings. And the Buddha is like, yes, let's meet you back at the Vihara. We'll give you teachings. No, give me teachings now. He's like, why is this man so adamant? And the Buddha just checks and he realizes, oh, this man's about to die. He's going to die in a few minutes. His life is almost come to an end. So right there, the Buddha gives one of the sharpest teachings he's ever given. In the hearing, let there just be hearing. In the seeing, let there just be seeing. In the smelling, let there just be smelling. In the tasting, let there just be tasting. In touch, let there just be touch. In mental activity, let there just be mental activity. In other words, don't create a reaction to what's happening. What's happening is just happening. Don't add a second ripple to it. In hearing, let there just be hearing. Sound arose, it came to an end. In seeing, let there just be seeing. And same with all the other sense doors. The nice word in Hindi is pratikriya. Don't do pratikriya. Don't create reaction to it. Someone sent me a story the other day about Paul Brunton and his time with Ramana Maharshi. Paul Brunton had come to India and he wrote a very powerful book, A Search in Secret India. He went and met many different gurus and guides and masters. And of all of them, he was most impressed with Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. So he spent time with Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. And one time he was walking with Ramana. They were walking on the mountain, Arunachala mountain. And Paul Brunton asked him that, could you give me an experience of pure awareness? Could you give me an experience of pure awareness? So then Ramana Maharshi looked at him very piercingly and he said to him, right now, you're looking at me. Right now you're looking at me, but you are imagining you are Paul Brunton. You are attached to the head and the body and the mind of a Paul Brunton. So he said to him, what is it like to look at me without this attachment, without this extra addition of imagining your head and imagining your body and imagining your Paul Bruntonness? And that was the taste of pure awareness. So this is another example of, in the seeing, let there just be seeing. Don't add to it, I am seeing. In the seeing, there's seeing. There's no I am seeing, I like, I don't like, I want more of this, less of this. In the hearing, let there just be hearing. So to empty yourself means to empty yourself of these kind of notions. You start from the notion, I am the experiencer. Then you move on to the notion, I am the witness. And then you even drop that last notion of I am the witness. I like to call it, I like to play with words. So it's witness, W-I-T-H, witness, witness, and itness. That's the journey. So no matter what's going on in your life, this is available to you. You don't need special circumstances. You don't need special initiation, empowerment. It's always available to you. This is something I also shared recently in my community call, and I want to share it again, that to be very mindful, attentive, and acknowledge all the ways in which we feel limited. How do you feel limited? You feel limited by your age, your gender, your belief system, your habits, your behaviors, your status, your reputation, your financial whatever, clout or lack of clout. What are the ways you feel limited? Your knowledge. And then the question is right in the middle of that limitation, whatever it is, the limitation you're experiencing. Some of us feel very limited, some of us feel partially limited. But it would be honest to say that at least in some ways we feel limited. Then right in the middle of that limitation, here's the powerful question. What is the freedom that is available right in the middle of that limitation? Like there was a time I was very fond of haiku poetry until I found out how many rules are there in haiku. Haiku poetry has a lot of rules. I don't know if you know this. Haiku is very inspiring, Japanese haiku poetry. But so many, I think, my goodness, so many rules. But then that's the challenge. You find the freedom within the rules, within the limitation of those, that meter, the haiku meter. Forgetting what exactly it is. Yeah. Within the limitations, within the tight boundaries of that, you have to find infinite creativity. The YouTube algorithm took me to a strange part of YouTube, which is about prisoners. And the whole thing was about how creative prisoners are and how they make amazing, tasty food out of all the little, and the food is not so great, but they find ways of mixing all the not so great food to make very tasty food. And they find all kinds of creative ways to solve problems. They get so creative because they have such limited resources. They have to find many, many clever ways making everything work. I mean, not to the same extent, but I also noticed, like, for example, when I was a monk, I had very few belongings. So when someone would send me a letter, the envelope, usually I would use the envelope because I like the paper. Sometimes the envelope gave a nice paper. So I would use the envelope. I wouldn't like to just throw away the envelope. There's a lot of empty space on that envelope. So I'd cut it up and I'd use those little pieces of paper for something. And I found I get quite creative with the little things. So when I had less resources, I was actually more meticulous and more creative. That's an example of finding the freedom right in the middle of limitation. Some of you on this call also, you've probably been through times in your life and there wasn't that much available, either due to adversity or some other reason. And then you had to get creative. So it's a powerful question. Identify your limitation. It's there anyway, acknowledge it. Instead of blaming it, you acknowledge it. And then you ask the powerful question, what's the freedom right in the middle of this? So this is an example of wabi sabi, seeing the beauty in even what seems imperfect, seeing the perfection in even what seems imperfect. I found it very powerful to ask these 4 questions, that no matter what's going on in life, you can ask these 4 questions. So the simple one is, what's there to learn in this? An easy one. No matter what's going on, what's there to learn in this? And even if you made big mistakes, there's always you can learn from the mistakes. What's there to learn in this? Second one is, what's there to love in this? What's there to learn in this? What's there to love in this? I remember going in a car once and I saw one of the public buses very, very dirty. Like, I don't know, hadn't been clean for a long time. Covered with dirt. Covered with dirt. All the windows were covered with dirt. I asked myself, what's there to love in this? God, dirty bus covered with muck. What's there to love in this? Well, there are many things to love. The fact that that bus is still going. It's not that well taken care of. They're not cleaning it. It's still going ahead and doing its duty. It's not saying, "Oh, you haven't washed me. I'm not gonna go." It still goes. It still picks up people. The windows are splattered with muck. What's there to love in this? So passengers are forced to. They can't look outside anymore. They're forced to be with themselves. They can't get distracted. Oh, interesting. Forced to be with yourself. Maybe they'll talk to the passenger next to them. Maybe they'll meditate. What's there to love in this? If you start looking, you'll find many things to love. You have to ask yourself that question. What's there to love in this? What's there to learn in this? Third one is, what's there to let go in this? What can I let go of? Actually, you have no choice but to let go. Life demands you let go. We came in this world, our hands were kind of curled close. When we die, our hands are usually open. So it's like, babies come like this. We die, our hands are open. We have to die. Life is forcing us to let go. In a universe where everything is changing, the only thing that causes pain is trying to hold on, basically. No choice but to let go. There's always something to let go. But let go is different from give up. It's paradoxical. So let go of resistance. That's what we think, let go. Let go of attachment. Let go of expectation. Or at least reduce it. You can't completely let go. I like to invite people to let go for tiny periods. Let go for 5 seconds. You can let go of almost anything for one breath for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. You can do it for 10 seconds, you can do it for longer. In fact, you do it anyway. When you go to sleep at night, you do let go, right? You let go of everything. You let go of, no matter how much you love your family, okay, now you please go to your own room. Or if you're in the same room, then don't snore. I'm going to sleep now. Don't trouble me. Put that volume down. No matter how much you love them, you want to be left alone. Beyond a point, leave me alone. No matter how good the food is, put it aside. No matter how good the people are, now leave me alone. Every night you let go. So what's there to let go in this? The fourth one is, what's there to laugh in this? It's really good to ask these questions because it makes you realize. And these are just four. You can say, what's there to be enthusiastic in this? What's there to celebrate in this? What's the $1 million opportunity in this? You can ask all kinds of questions. So, but these are just four simple ones. But what you get from this is a realization that events are just neutral. Events by themselves have no meaning. It's the meaning you give them. A lot of people have heard me say how wonderful many times. It's one of the things I often say, how wonderful, and people say how wonderful. And I learned it from Sudhakar Ram. Sudhakar Ram used to be the CEO of Mastech IT company. We were having a conference on conscious capitalism. And he introduced me to this mantra, how wonderful. He said he learned it from Benjamin Zander. Benjamin Zander said how fascinating. So he made it into how wonderful. And so I've been using it ever since. But what's cool about Sudhakar is that when he got cancer, last year he got cancer, he kept saying how wonderful. He'd go for treatment, whatever the doctor would say, let's do it, how wonderful. And he surrendered to his doctors. Once he'd chosen a doctor, he surrendered to the doctor, whatever the doctor said he went through. And he actually passed on. He didn't make it. But they said that they'd never seen such a non-complaining patient. So how wonderful right till the end. A good example. In fact, he told me 3-4 years back, we were having a session at this fancy hotel in Jaipur. I think it's called Ram Vilas Palace, one of the top hotels in the world. We were sitting at breakfast, and he tells me, Nithya, I could die today. It'll be fine. I said, what do you mean? He said, everything's in order. All my affairs are in order. All my will is ready. My succession plan for my company is ready. Everything's ready. My family knows where all the passwords, everything. I could die right now. He said, this is all extra time I have. He must have, I don't think he had cancer, or at least he didn't know if he had cancer. He didn't tell me. I don't think he had cancer that time. So he had made his peace. This is a short, if you want a short definition of spirituality, this is what it is. That you die before you die, in a way. You're done. So this is what the new moon represents. New moon, every month you have an opportunity, die before you die. Empty yourself of yourself. Bas ek kaam karo, khud ko khali karo. If you take a marble and you put it in a wash basin, it'll go twirling round and round and round, and it'll go and settle down at the lowest point of the wash basin. If you put a marble and put it into a bowl, it'll go twirling round and round and round. It'll settle down at the lowest point of the bowl. So one of my teachers told me, whatever the deepest experience you've had of emptiness, he said that'll be the only thing that supports you as you approach death. Nothing else. All your knowledge, all your concepts, all your experiences, big zero. They mean nothing. It's your deepest taste of your own emptiness. That's the only thing that supports you as you approach the big emptiness. Nothing else supports you. If you think you're a something, you're in big trouble. Your somethingness, all your somethingness, I'm this, I'm that, I've achieved this, I've achieved that. Nothing more painful than your resume in your last hours. Someone shows you your resume. Throw this away. Horrible thing. Resume. All the things you've done. Can we read your resume to you? Please don't read me my resume. Don't want my resume. Most meaningless document on the planet. Zero interest in that. So I'm not saying you should throw away your resume. I'm just saying don't take it so tightly. Don't hold it so tightly. So right in the middle of limitation, can you find freedom? It's like a koan. It's like one of those questions which doesn't have an easy answer. In the seeing, let there just be the seen. In the hearing, let there just be the heard. In the smelling, let there just be the smelt. In the tasting, let there just be the tasted. So this is pure awareness. This is pure presence. It's not I am seeing. There's just seeing. It's not even I'm witnessing the seeing. It's just seeing. Bhokta bhav, drashta bhav, keval darshan. Bhokta bhav is I am the one who's experiencing. I am the one who's karta bhav. I am the one who's doing. Bhokta bhav, karta bhav go together. I do, I experience. I do, I experience. I do, I experience. I do, I experience. Bhokta bhav, karta bhav. So you shift from that into drashta bhav, which is witnessing. Witnessing. Things are happening, I'm witnessing. Things are happening, I'm witnessing. Level 3 is, it's not even like it's an upward level. It's more like an internal. It's like it's an inward journey, not an onward journey. You're coming to the purity without the concept. These are extra concepts you've added. You've added the concept of I am witnessing. You've added the concept of I'm the experiencer. Just come to the reality is, it's just life experiencing itself. Bas ek kaam karo, khud ko khali karo. Just do one thing, empty yourself. Empty yourself of yourself. How do you empty yourself? In the seeing, there's just seeing. In the hearing, there's just hearing. And yeah, there may be thoughts, but there's no problem. Thoughts not a problem actually. I love this distinction between first generation and second generation that Byron Katie makes. So first generation is just a spontaneous thought that springs up. Could be any thought. Could be a thought of I'm not good enough. Could be a thought of you're better than me, or I'm better than you, or I need more of this or less of that, or whatever. Any thought springs up. Right? It's not a problem. Thought is not a problem. It's your pratikriya. It's your reaction to the thought. Second generation. I shouldn't think like this. I'm becoming a negative person. I'm attracting something negative now. If I keep thinking like this, I'll get cancer. I'll get a brain hemorrhage. If I think like this, then no one will like me. That's the one that causes trouble, actually. Now, the first generation is quite innocent. It just popped up. The second generation creates trouble. So the Buddha says in the thinking, let there just be thinking. Fine, it arose. All kinds of thoughts will arise. In fact, when you go for a meditation course, it's hilarious the kind of thought, all kinds of strange thoughts arise. My goodness. Because you become, actually they arise anyway, but you're becoming more attentive. The one person came and said, 10-day meditation course. Cricket match was going on for 10 days. Cricket commentary. Someone said a song got stuck in my head. The song kept playing again and again. Someone said I couldn't stop thinking about, like in my case, it happened. One of my first meditation courses. I was convinced I'm going to have a road accident and die on the way home. This thought just came. It wouldn't stop. I was convinced. I was like, done. This is it. Last 2 days of my life. On my way home, I'll have a road accident and die. All kinds of strange thoughts come. And that's not a problem. The problem is our reaction to that. There was this very advanced, there was a lady who'd been practicing and teaching meditation for 40 years. Very senior teacher of meditation. And she was very inspiring. A lot of people found her very inspiring. So her husband passed away. And she confessed to my teacher that it's been 6 months, it's been 1 year. His thoughts don't stop. She's like, I'm amazed. I've been meditating for 40 years. My husband passes away. His thoughts just keep coming. All kinds of random memories keep popping up. This happened, that happened, this happened. And she's good enough in meditation to just witness it. She finds it fascinating that despite being a meditator for so long, it didn't prevent the memories from coming up. It's not a problem. First generation is not a problem. Second generation, oh, that means my meditation has been a failure. Oh, that means I'm not this, or that means I'm this, or that means, oh. And then reacting to the thoughts, that's the one that gets us in trouble. If it's happening, it's happening. So it's not a problem. So nothing that's happening is actually a problem. It's your reaction to it that's a problem, or can become a problem. Your resistance to it that becomes a problem. By itself, it's just a cleansing that's happening. Old patterns are getting cleansed. So being and blossoming. Being and blossoming. Being is, like we said, in the seeing, there's just seeing. In the hearing, there's just hearing. Like Ramana says to Paul Brunton, look at me then, but without the assumption of being a Paul Brunton. Without, so, this call that we're attending, attend it. Without adding your face, without adding your body, without adding your personality to it. Don't assume these things. And that's pure awareness right there. And yes, it's hard to sustain because we have such a momentum of identifying, but that's all right. Train doesn't come to a stop in one break. The train has to have many, many breaks, short breaks, small breaks. And those small breaks get even that long train to come to a stop. So it had the momentum, our being preoccupied with thoughts and concepts. There's a momentum to that, but it's not necessary that it has to go on forever. So the practice here is short moments of resting in clarity, short moments of resting in beingness, short moments of being a witness and recognizing the itness, repeated many times. In the beginning, you feel you're doing it. After a while, it starts doing you. There's no sense of you, like it happens by itself. These clarity moments of clarity come by themselves. A lot of fun when that happens. It's almost like, how do you say it? In banking terms, at some point the interest starts compounding, like it just starts coming back by itself. You practice enough, now the interest, you can actually start living off the interest. So your practice is deep enough now that these moments arise by themselves. It's very nice. The first two verses of the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, Mano pubbangama dhamma, mano settha mano maya, manasache paduttena, bhasati va karoti va, tatonang dukkha manaveti, chakkhung va vahato padam. I'll say both the verses and I'll explain. Mano pubbangama dhamma, mano settha mano maya, manasache pasannena, bhasati va karoti va, tatonang sukha manaveti, chaya va anapayini. There was a time I was trying to memorize the whole Dhammapada. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I remembered at least some of the verses. So the first one is Mano Pubbangama Dhamma. Mano Settha Mano Maya. All things arise from the mind. Mind comes first. Mano Settha. Mind is chief. Mano Maya, it's mind made. All things arise from the mind. Mind is chief. Mind comes first. Manasache Paduttena. Those who know Hindi will understand. Paduttena is like pradushan, polluted. The mind that's defiled, polluted. Manasache paduttena. Bhasati va karoti va. Bhasati is you speak. Karoti is you do. With a mind that's defiled, you speak and you do. Tatonang dukkham anaveti. Now sorrow starts following you. Chakkhung va vahato padang. Chakkhung is the wheel. Vahato padang is an ox cart. So now wherever you go, have you seen the sad state of oxen or cows or donkeys or these horses, these donkeys, these cows, wherever they go, there's heavy load is on their back. There are people sitting there, there's rocks in that, there's cement in that. And the poor animal, wherever it goes, it has a heavy burden to carry. It can't escape it. So, Manopubbangama Dhamma, mind comes first. He didn't say stock market comes first. He didn't say quality of your relationships come first. No, he says Manasach, Mano Pubbanga, mind comes first. Mano Siddha, mind is first. Manomaya, mind made. It's all mind made. Manasache Paduttena, when the mind is defiled, how is it defiled? It resists the experience. Instead of having the experience, it's resisting the experience. It shouldn't be like, it should be more of this, less of this. Resistance. So it's the opposite of trusting the experience. Bhasati va, you speak or you act. Tatonang dukkha manaveti, chakkhung va vahato padam. So the first verse of the Dhammapada tells you the problem. This is the problem. Second verse of the Dhammapada gives you the solution. Manopubbangama dhamma, mano settha manomaya, manasache pasannena. Those again who understand Hindi will understand. Pasannena is like prasanna. Prasanna is like buoyant, happy, rejoicing, happy, purified, clear. The mind that's happy, rejoicing, purified, clear, celebrating, clear, serene, unperturbed, undefiled. Manasache pasannena bhasati va karoti va. If you speak and if you act. Tatonan sukhamanaveti. Now, happiness starts following you. How does it follow you? Chaya va anapayini. When was the last time you said, this shadow is getting too heavy for me? Can't manage it. Keeps getting stuck on different things. This shadow is too long. This shadow is too... Chances are you not even notice your shadow in a while. Right? It's just there, but it's there, right? It's there. In fact, you might get shocked if you don't have a shadow someday. Like, what happened? Where did my shadow go? You're reading about Ramalinga Swami. His shadow only disappeared. He became a light body master. He must be almost embarrassed to go anywhere. Where's this man's shadow? He doesn't have a shadow. His skin was becoming golden even I think he covered himself from head to toe, except his face. Almost nothing is showing. He must have been almost embarrassed. His skin has become like a golden skin. His shadow has disappeared. So, Sukhamanaveti Chayava Anapayini. So even your like the shadow that never departs, then happiness follows you. It's got no weight. Shadow's got no weight. Weightless. And shadow doesn't require, you keep checking. Like, for example, when you go to the airport, they say, show me your ID card, show me your passport. Then they don't ask your shadow, where is your passport? Shadow just comes along. No one ever asks the shadow for its passport, its Aadhaar card, driver's license. You don't go to the movie ticket, they say, okay, give us one for the shadow, one for you. No, shadow goes free everywhere. So weightless, no trouble. I read the story of this true story of this man who had done some violent crime and he was put in prison. And he was extremely, extremely belligerent, extremely difficult to control. He'd had a very troubled childhood and he'd gotten into crime and he went to prison. And I think there'd been some kind of, he was a part of some gang and there'd been some kind of a violent thing that they did. And the other guys, to get out, they actually, implicated him. Something like that happened. So even though he was part of it, but somebody had died in the process. He'd not killed, but they implicated him. So he was on death row. He was going to die now. He had to. Death row takes many years, but yeah. So very, very difficult. Big guy, very strong. And whenever there'd be a fight in prison, he'd be very hard to control. It would take 4 officers to control this guy. So powerful, so big, so strong. So one of those fights happened in prison, and when you have a fight in prison, you go to the hole. What's the hole? Solitary confinement. That's the punishment. So they drag him. He's shouting and screaming and he's abusing, and they push him into the solitary confinement. And they're about to shut the door when he says, "I'm entitled to one book." He knows he's going to get bored or it's going to be there for many weeks. I'm entitled to one book. So the warden whatever the prison officer just grabs, there's the bookshelf, he just grabs one book and just throws it without even looking, just throws the book at him and says, "Take that, you animal." And he shuts the prison door. For the first 3 days, he's so disturbed, he doesn't even look at the book. And finally, he picks up the book. What is the book? Happens to be the Dhammapada. And he reads the first 2 verses that we've just read. We just told you about. And then as he reads it, he's stunned. What is this book? My goodness, it's talking to me. It's talking directly to me. And very early in the chapter, there's a chapter on anger. And when he reads that chapter on anger, he's just crying and crying. My goodness, who is this man? Who is this Buddha? He never heard of the Buddha before. Who is this man? He's talking directly to me. So you see, in those few weeks that he was in the hole, it was like the Buddha was sitting across from him. He was stuck with the Buddha for 2 or 3 weeks. When you're suffering very deeply, these things have more meaning. Right now, many of you in your home also, you'll have a Dhammapada. It will not have the same impact on you. Because you've got 1,000 things on your mind. But if you were stuck in one room with just you suffering and the Dhammapada, could be any other book, could be the Guru Granth Sahib, could be Kabir's book, it doesn't matter what the book is. But if you have that wisdom teaching and you have yourself and you have your suffering, then the impact it will have is very, very deep. That's what happened to him. So he came out of that prison cell, a transformed man. And there was an address at the back of the book. The book had come from, it's been donated by a Zen center And he wrote to them saying, I read this book, it's changed me. Can you send someone? It talks about meditation. I don't know how to meditate. Can you send someone to teach me meditation? So they contact the prison, and in America there are rules about how, if you are. So he said, I'm becoming Buddhist. So once you become Buddhist, then they have to allow some Buddhist chaplain to come and teach. So then they allow a Zen priest to come, and he teaches him Zen meditation. And like this, everyone notices, the guards notice, everyone notices his transformation. Everyone notices the transformation. To the point where everyone feels that this man should be pardoned. He doesn't deserve to die. He's been through a shift. And a very big petition starts outside the prison, including supported by the prison officers. This man's gone through a change. It goes all the way up to the governor. The governor refuses to sign. So despite the fact that this man's gone through a total transformation, he has to go to death row. But right till the end, he's very calm. And he says, yes, I understand karma. It's nobody's fault. He says, I have done certain deeds in my life. And even if I think it's unfair, it doesn't matter. If not for this, then for something else. One of my teachers was teaching in an Australian prison. And after many months of teaching, one of the prisoners got quite close to him. And he told him in confidence that he was actually innocent for what they had convicted him for. And Ajahn Brahm believed him because by this time they had enough of it. Was normally every prisoner will say, I'm innocent. But in that moment, he believed him. He said, oh my goodness, that's a tremendous injustice. He said, I have to do something to get you out of here. But then the prisoner laughed and said, no, don't worry. There are many other things I did they didn't catch me for, so it's okay. So this fellow also, he said, all right, it's karma. By this time, he realizes, what do you do? So instead of being upset about it, gracefully, he walks himself to the death row. Whatever they have, electric chair or lethal injection. So this is wonderful. If such a person who has such a difficult childhood, who has such a violent life, if such a person can go through transformation, this is not ancient time. This is just a few 10, 15 years back. This happened. You and I also have lots of hope. So, there are only the Buddha said there are only 5 things that will prevent you from getting enlightened in this lifetime. One of the 5, only 5 things. If you do these 5 things, then this lifetime it's difficult. It'll happen in future lifetime. This lifetime it can't happen. What are the 5 things? So you can check them. You can do the checklist, all right? If you haven't done these 5 things, you're fine. If you've done them, then okay, some other lifetime. And by the way, this is the Mahayana tradition said even that can be cured, but normal Theravada says these 5 things that you're done. So what are the 5 things? I hope none of you have done these 5 things. Killed your mom. So check, have you killed your mom? Hopefully you've not killed your mom. At least not on purpose. So you haven't killed your mom, you're okay. Killed your dad? You haven't killed your dad, you're fine. Killed an arahant. Arahant is a fully enlightened. In Buddhism, a fully enlightened being is called an arahant. Killed an arahant. 3rd one. Killed a mom, killed a dad, killed an arahant. Created a schism in a sangha. A sangha is the community that's practicing together. And with a malevolent intention, you create a schism. You create a misunderstanding. You broke that sangha. It's very painful when a sangha breaks like that. So good practicing sangha, you create a schism for one reason or the other. That's pretty dense. And the 5th one, you can't really kill a Buddha because he's too powerful and pure, but you can draw blood from a Buddha. So Devdutt, one of his cousins, he tried to assassinate the Buddha. He threw a rock on the Buddha, but it missed. But a splinter from the rock, it cut his toe. So little blood came out. So drawing blood from a fully awakened Tathagata, Buddha. In Buddhism, these are the 5 things. If you've done these 5 things in this lifetime, all you can do is pray then. You can be a little better. But if you haven't done these 5 things, then you're still eligible. So no matter how naughty you've been, maybe you stole some money from your grandmom. Or maybe you were mean to a neighbor. If you kicked a dog when you were a child, you're still okay. You're still eligible. And if you've done these 5 things, I'm sorry to hear that, but if you've done these 5 things, then please go to the Mahayana tradition. They'll you chant the Vajrasattva mantra, or you take refuge in Amitabha Buddha, you'll still be safe. If you take refuge in Amitabha Buddha, you'll be born from others. So they say you'll be born in a lotus, and you'll be trapped in that lotus for quite a long period of time. But eventually, that lotus will open. So it'll not be like a hell realm. It'll just be a lotus. You're trapped inside a lotus. Eventually, the lotus will blossom. You'll come out. So I don't recommend doing these 5 things anyway, even if you belong to the Mahayana. So in other words, we all have a lot of hope, and we shouldn't feel I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too, this or that, or don't limit yourself. And right in the middle of your limitation, find your freedom. How can you find your freedom right in the middle of your limitation? Being and blossoming. Being is, in the seeing, there's just the seeing. In the hearing, there's just the hearing. In the smelling, there's just the smelling. Tasting, there's just the tasting. Thinking, there's just the thinking. Mental process is just the mental process. Don't add layers to it. You don't add layers to it, the momentum that's there starts, the spring starts unwinding itself. Many experiences will happen as it unwinds itself. Even peculiar experiences will happen. But don't worry about it. It's a healthy process. Let it keep unwinding itself. The second part of it is, if you have to tell a story, tell a good one. If you have to tell a story, then you ask yourself, okay, what's there to learn from this? What's there to love in this? What's there to laugh about in this? What's there to let go in this? Why is this the best thing that has ever happened to me? One of the Zen teachers says, right here is holy ground. Right here I shall build my sanctuary. If you see things as imperfect, you're bound. If you see things as perfect, you're free. At any moment of your life, when you see things as imperfect, to the extent you see things as imperfect, you're bound. To the extent you see things as perfect, you're free. So it's really in your own hands, how free or how bound you want to be. Anybody wants to ask something or say something before we end? What part of today's practice was most meaningful for you? Put that in the chat if you like. And Patty, if you're there, you can again share our screen for what we're having on Sunday.
Yeah, Nithya?
Just again share the screen for
Okay.
our event on Sunday. Is it normal to always cry in meditation? It's normal for you if it's happening. It's normal at this time. Don't compare to other people. But check, sometimes don't get caught up in the thinking around it. So yeah, tear the tears. Just try to be with the experience of it. Don't get, if it's, then maybe you're getting caught in a loop of thought. So be in awareness, and then if tears are coming, then tears are coming. There may be periods. In fact, Ajahn Chah said, one of my teachers, he said, if you haven't broken down and cried at least 3 times, your practice hasn't even begun yet, he said. It is normal to cry. At some point you will cry. And cry, you'll cry out of sadness or you cry out of joy and bliss. It is totally normal to cry. So I would just say stay in awareness and don't worry about it too much. But if you're getting into thought, then obviously you're not really meditating. You're getting caught in a loop. Shruti liked the example of the marble at the bottom of the sink. What is there to learn, love, laugh, and let go? And this says Sandhya. Is it possible to start with daily practices again? What do you mean, is it possible to start with daily practices again? Please start with whatever daily practices you like. Not adding the secondary layer to what's primarily arising.
She's referring to your daily practice that you used to do, Nithya, 10:30 every day.
Oh, those ones.
Yeah.
I'll see. Right now I'm starting this thing on. Join me on Sunday. I'll tell you what I'm doing. It's a different version of that. Meditation just before death by the Buddha. And what's there to love, learn, let go, and love. First you get it, then it gets you. Emptiness and the 4 questions. Monk-like discipline is considered the highest kind. What makes monks so disciplined? If you think about it, everyone's disciplined in their own way. For example, in a household, people are very disciplined about cleaning the house every day, feeding the kids every day, shouting at the husband every day. I mean, people are disciplined about. So not only monks, it has to do with your way of life. So if your way of life is, if you have chosen for yourself a way of life where you want to really purify your mind and purify your heart and deepen your insight into the nature of life, then that will not be hard for you. So, and by the way, not all monks are disciplined. There are many very naughty monks and lazy monks. So it's a minority of monks who actually follow all the rules. There are 227 rules, and then that's a major rule, and there are many minor rules. It's not easy being a monk, but it's easy for those who have the right intention. Like for me, I did not find it too hard. I don't consider myself a very highly disciplined person, but when you're in that setup with those kind of people, then it comes quite easily. Moon cycles affect me. New moon makes me low. Full moon makes me too energetic. All right, just notice that. And I would say it affects the body and mind. It doesn't affect you. There's a part of you that's noticing both of those things. So identify with that part that is noticing that, as opposed to the part that's getting affected. That would be good for you. Identify with the part that's just conscious. Let that be your primary identity, if you have to have an identity. In the middle of limitation is freedom. I love how you explained find freedom in the middle of our limitation. It's like setting personal boundaries doesn't limit us, but actually sets us free. Yeah, that's true. Could you give us a written practice as it's the new year and new? I mean, a simple written practice would just be to write a letter to yourself, or just sit with yourself with a piece of paper and write what's important. Write what's important. What deserves your attention is a good question to ask. What deserves this coming year? What deserves my attention? That's a good one to write. It'll come to you. What I did that. I've been doing that. I also did it again today. I'm making a list of what is my priority this year. It helps to write to clarify that. Most of the time, when I make a list like that, it really helps me be on track. Great, lovely. All right, everybody. So thank you for joining. We have a special session on Sunday from 10:30 to 11:30. So join us there if you like. And lately, I hear you speak about Shiva and Shakti. What drew you to this concept? It's not a new concept for me. I'm just using the word Shiva and Shakti more, but for me, it's the same. It's just in India, we are more used to Shiva and Shakti. But for me, before this, I would use the phrase concept and reality. Concept and reality. Shiva is reality. Shakti is concepts. What is concept? Manifestation. This and that. So it's just a way of saying. And also, I've been drawn to the Kashmir Shaivism perspective quite a bit. So I use the word Shiva and Shakti. But basically, Shiva and Shakti is consciousness and energy, or that which knows and that which vibrates. Awareness and vibration or energy. Shiva and Shakti. So the spider web analogy I gave, the stickiest part of the spider web is right in the center. So the yin yang, the Shiva Shakti, the consciousness and energy, the knowing and the manifestation. Let that be the center around which we weave the web. And we look at that from many, many, many different perspectives, again and again and again and again, to get a multifaceted view. Right? It's the same thing, but looked at again and again, different perspectives. That's kind of a summary of what I'm going to be offering in the coming year. So you're welcome to join. All right, let's make a Mayurma. Good wishes. Take your hands up. And then down, make a big heart. And come back to your heart. Let's say together, Mayurma. Infinite good wishes.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, take rest. Take rest. New moon, new year, new you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Nithya.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Nithya.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Nithya. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy New